have scored a redistricting win in Utah that could help them reclaim the House majority in next year's midterms if the ruling stands. A federal judge rejected a map drawn by Republican lawmakers in favor of an alternative proposal that creates a Democratic-leaning district.
The recent court-ordered redistricting in Utah, which consolidated the traditionally Democratic voting Salt Lake County into fewer districts, fundamentally changes the calculus for one of the state's 4 U.S. House seats.
One of the amazing things is that we hear about the lawsuits. The administration, you're winning most of them.
We sure are.
I mean, pretty amazing, actually.
Well, we're winning in the Supreme Court. You know, we're not winning in a lot of district courts because we're not.
The Trump administration, as I mentioned, is suing to try and stop California from redistricting their congressional maps, despite over 60% of California voters approving it, and despite Texas plans to move forward with its redistricting plans. You will also no doubt benefit from the newly drawn district here in Utah. What do you make of where we are right now in terms of non-census year redistricting potentially turning out to be a difference-making dynamic in terms of control of the House?
You know, what's happening in Utah is a little bit of a different situation. I've always thought that voters should choose their elected officials, not elected officials choosing their voters. But because of the win here in Utah, we are, voters here have felt for a long time that the boundaries have been manipulated to deny their voice and to really shut them out of the opportunity to elect somebody who they want to send to Congress. And the court ruled that the Utah legislature had overreached and drawn boundaries that were intended to stop anyone in Utah from electing a Democrat. So now with this new ruling, we have new boundaries and a real opportunity to elect a Democrat and send a Democrat to Congress in 2026.
Shifting it from a reliable Republican win to a competitive target for Democrats. A victory that signals the broader, high-stakes battle for control of Congress. This defensive mid-decade redistricting push by Republicans, including in states like Texas, and the reaction from the White House, underscores a palpable concern about holding their narrow House majority in the 2026 midterms.
I mean, Abigail and Mikey ran incredible races. I came in with them in 2018. We're very close friends. I was supporting them in New Jersey and Virginia over the last week up there campaigning. And, seeing them campaign, meeting their constituents was energizing. It was amazing. And it is showing me what's happening around this country, not just in Virginia, not just in New Jersey, but in rural Pennsylvania, in Colorado, in my own district, where city councils and mayor's races and school boards flipped. There is something really big happening. The comeback has started. The movement is beginning. America is repudiating MAGA. They are repudiating Donald Trump. They want people to actually govern.
Jack Ciattarelli ran a great campaign in 2021 and got within a few points of Phil Murphy in that election. And there were a lot of smart Republicans that were saying that they thought that he was going to win, that Mikey Sherrill was a weaker candidate than Spanberger. And there were counties that had flipped for Donald Trump that went immediately back for that terrible candidate, Mikey Sherrill, couldn't string a word together. And when I think things really turned to produce a margin of this size, which the pollsters do have some explaining to do, that it was a 13-point margin and they were talking, 5-6, Jack Ciattarelli in that debate gave Donald Trump an A grade and said essentially what Kamala Harris did on The View. I wouldn't do anything differently. Then Trump says, I'm going to take away the infrastructure spending for the Gateway Tunnel, which is really important for New Jersey and New York. And he didn't stand up for his people. In a state like New Jersey, that especially matters. That state, and I'm married to that state, is full of oomph and fight. And if you just sit there and take it because you serve dear leader, guess what? You're not going to win your election.
Where Democrats need to flip just 3 net seats from their current 215-seat position to gain control. While the historical trend dictates that the president's party typically loses around 23 seats in a midterm, the increasing polarization of the American electorate and aggressive partisan gerrymandering have decimated the number of competitive districts, meaning the Democrats' path to the majority relies on a much smaller, intensely contested field, making every court-mandated change and surprising victory, like the one where Democrats flipped 12 seats in the Virginia House of Delegates despite the state's historical leaning, a critical piece of the national puzzle, demonstrating that even strong GOP territory is now susceptible to significant down-ballot losses. And it's not like Republicans can pivot to other positives as a means to remain hopeful that places like Utah will continue to be a stronghold. Look at the plummeting consumer sentiment, the polling after polling that shows Trump underwater on vital issues like the economy, all while the president just gets in front of the camera and lies through his teeth that everything is booming. Well, if that's true, why not release October's unemployment numbers? And it's clearly not right. So much so that guests on Fox are forced to address the elephant in the room. Well, no, not Epstein, the other one.
A big loss. You can say that these states were traditionally blue, but you can also say that heading in, there was some thought that, especially in New Jersey, that Ciattarelli would do better. The spreads here are surprising. Maybe not the results, but the spreads. And if you look inside the numbers, there are some dangerous things. One, young women overwhelmingly in New Jersey and Virginia supported the Democrat based on economy, on immigration, maybe those ICE images, the affordability push by Mamdani really sticks. And that's basically inflation and how people feel about the economy. So this dichotomy between how Wall Street's doing and how big business is doing and how you feel about it at home is something Republicans really have to look at closely. But look at this spread in Virginia. It's massive.
Do you think that the young people, especially in the Mamdani race, which is fascinating to me, do you think that they were that they liked his solutions that he was putting forward, or he was the only one who was actually talking about it?
They turned out in droves. Young people
they did.
I mean, in big numbers. 18 to 39 came out for Mamdani big. I think Cuomo started to close at the end because he was saying, here's the fearful things, here are the things you have to be worried about. But he was such a bad candidate at the beginning, it seemed like it was too late.
What about the two things? What about the Hispanic vote? And what about the Hispanic vote as well as the female vote going to Democrats without abortion really being front and center? For the longest time, people thought, well, that was the reason Republicans are vulnerable because the pro-life movement, perhaps women were rallying against that. But that wasn't an issue.
No, it really seems like it's economy. It really seems like it's how they feel, grocery shopping, how affordability. There is some other, there's a Trump factor here. He is right to say he was not on the ballot. And when he's not, it doesn't produce the same emotion, but it does produce emotion on the other side.
The recent court-ordered redistricting in Utah, which consolidated the traditionally Democratic voting Salt Lake County into fewer districts, fundamentally changes the calculus for one of the state's 4 U.S. House seats, shifting it from a reliable Republican win to a competitive target for Democrats. A victory that signals the broader, high-stakes battle for control of Congress. This defensive mid-decade redistricting push by Republicans, including in states like Texas, and the reaction from the White House, underscores a palpable concern about holding their narrow House majority in the 2026 midterms, where Democrats need to flip just 3 net seats from their current 215-seat position to gain control. While the historical trend dictates that the president's party typically loses around 23 seats in a midterm,